Okay. 3, 2, 1. Oh, girls, I have the absolutely amazing Kerrie J White here to talk about all things energy. And we are just so excited. How are you, wonderful woman?
I am amazing, feeling brilliant today. Hope you are too.
Yes, yes, of course. We're always good, aren't we? Well,
Definitely.
that's not true. Sometimes we're not good and sometimes we need some energy healing. So
We do. We definitely do.
So ladies, just a bit of a backstory. I've always been a bit of a spiritual girl, but I came across Kerrie's energy work and training, and I just knew I had to book in to learn more with her. So I'm super glad I did, because it has just exponentially changed my life, and now I can help women with their energy work. So I just think that you are so amazing, and I'm so excited to have you here.
Thank you so much. Yeah, and I actually still remember that first time I met you, and you were just all day just like, but what? But really? But what's going on? Like I remember like your face was just like the whole day is actually amazing. It's like literally having a little kid there who's like just discovering everything.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was
that's
such a
me.
beautiful day. I loved it. Wow.
And I'm such a, like, obviously being a teacher, just such a student, like, how does this work? And are you sure?
Oh
Okay,
yeah.
like, let's try this.
And I love that because it's almost like the more questions people ask me, it's almost like everyone else gets more of an in-depth. And even sometimes some people ask me things. And then that question then can just be like, boom, a big download of stuff. And I'm like, wow, that was actually really interesting. So yeah, I love the questioning. I think that's how we all learn. So yeah, never stop
Okay,
learning.
okay, well, okay, before we get into the juicy stuff, then let's do our warm-up so the girls can get to know you a bit better. It's just like a super quick activity called this or that. You just have to pick one or the other. Ready?
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay. Tea or coffee?
Tea, please.
Oh, like a herbal or like an English breakfast?
It's funny actually. Sometimes I like the English breakfast to remind me of England.
Of
It does remind
course.
me of being like, because every time you go to a home, anywhere in England, do you want a cup of tea? Like literally that's hello, cup of tea. So it does remind me of being back home in that sense. But I tend to drink more herbal tea myself now. So yeah,
Okay. All right. Not fussy on the tea front then.
not really.
All right. What about silver or gold?
Well, this was an interesting one. I used to actually wear a lot of silver jewelry, but then when I got into the energy work, I always tap into the golden ratio, golden frequency. Everything's kind of that kind of frequency. I mean, the silver frequency does come in as well. Like it is class. Well, it's funny thinking energy work. I'm always thinking in frequencies. So it's like the color, even the metal has its own frequency, its own vibration. So they all have their places, but I do gold is kind of, yeah, it does tend to creep in a way more than the silver does.
I was going to say it was totally a trick question, because I know that we talk a lot about gold. And then I
Yeah.
was like, oh, she might interpret it as jewelry or whatever. And I was like, nah, she's going to totally go into frequencies. I know she is.
Yeah, I know. They're hard not to. Yeah.
Definitely. And what about beach or rainforest?
I do love nature, rainforest, but if I had to choose, it would be the beach. I just find the beach, the ocean is kind of like, I mean, even though I'm like 30 minutes from the beach where I live, I'm always there with my children. It's literally my place to escape. And I just feel, yeah, there's just something about being near the ocean that's just, yeah, like magic. It's like being with the ether, the ocean of just consciousness. So yeah, I love it.
Yeah, I absolutely love the ocean as well. But I just wasn't sure which one you would pick, because you bring like a lot of kind of rainforest vibes into our meditations and stuff as well. So I was like,
Yeah. And
we'll
surrounded
see
by
what.
trees behind me as well.
Yeah, so okay,
So,
well,
yeah.
that was good. Well, we've got into some energy stuff already. And we are here to talk all about elevating energy. And I just love your story, because a lot of the time you talk about being spiritual from a young age, and that people can really push that down. So can you maybe start by telling us how you got into all of this kind of energetic work?
Yeah, so from a young age, I didn't actually realize what I was doing was energy work. I got a really strong memory of my dog back when I was in the UK. She was a pedigree and had all these cancer lumps on her. I loved her. Stroke her, but feel above the lumps, and then stroke the rest of her fur. And this one day when I was doing it, I was just kind of like, the lump had got really big. And then I remember putting my hand over it. I was just kind of like in a trance, really, just kind of like, and then I was like, oh, what's that? And it was really like ting ting in my hand. And then I was like, I wasn't even touching the dog then. And I was like stroking her without touching her at all. And then I was like, oh, it's just the lump that tingles. And I was like, I remember my mum folding washing. I'm like, Mum, why does it tingle in the air over the dog's lump? And she was like, just folding washing, like, what is she on about? I remember her face being like, I don't know, kid, like, was in like, I don't know what you're talking about. And I'm thinking, okay, maybe this isn't something that everyone else does. And even with my little sister back then, I was like, can you feel this over the dog? Like, it's funny how you do it with like your little sister, less judgment.
Yeah.
So I remember her going, oh, a little bit, but like she wasn't really that interested. And I was like, oh, why does no one else care about this? And even like being a little sister, every time she'd get injured or something, I'd be like, can I just test where it is on your leg? Or, you know, if she got sore. But she quickly didn't let me do that after a while, because every time I'd find it, I'd go, is it there? And she'd be like, ow. So it was like that ended after a while. But I even have like memories of being in my room, my bedroom, when I was younger, doing this weird kung fu, but then feeling like, what is this? Like, there'd be like a lump in my room, and I'd be like, okay, I don't even know what that is. It'd just be like creepy, and I'd move away from it.
Wow,
so I was already
that's incredible.
I was already feeling stuff, but then just thinking, I must just be weird, or I've got this. I mean, I was always told you've got a really like vivid imagination. And I used to just draw the most strangest pictures as well. Like, it'd always be, weird stuff in the pictures that I draw. Good stuff. It always looked like happy scenes, but like weird floating off thing, you know, fairies and stuff with wings and all kind of random stuff.
I mean, we're all a little bit weird, aren't we?
Yeah. It's got to be weird, haven't you? It's got to be weird to be normal these days. So yeah.
Yeah. So obviously you had that experience as a child, and then did you, I guess, because we talk a lot about people losing, I don't know if losing is the right word, but like, you know, getting out of touch with their spiritual side as they grow up and that kind of thing. So what was the gap between you realizing that as when you were younger, and then obviously to where you are now?
Yeah, so I reckon, so when I was the teenage years, it was literally like, I need to fit in here. So it was kind of like, I didn't even really talk about it or do much. I mean, I was very drawn to watching on TV or stuff like that. And then 20s, I was traveling. Well, I went to university, and then I was traveling, and then I got to Australia. And then when I ended up, it was funny. I was always very in touch with, like, I kind of knew how to manifest things. If things were going to happen, or I'd make them happen, or if I ran out of money, all of a sudden I have like $1,000 the next day. Like, I was very good at being like, all right, something's not happening right here, making it happen. And then when I got with my now ex-husband, everything seemed to go downhill. He was a very karmic relationship, and that pulled me so out of who I truly was. And then I ended up pregnant with twins, lack of sleep, no family support. No one was in Australia at the time, none of my family. I just felt like I was drowning, and my whole body began to shake. And I remember holding the babies and shaking. And I remember life felt dark. And I remember my thoughts and being like, what are these thoughts? Like, you know, like more darker thoughts coming in. And it was something I never really experienced. I felt like I had very easy flowing life really before that event. So that's supposed my dark night of the soul, really. And I remember feeling so unwell. I went for blood tests, and it was like, your thyroid's not functioning, you've got Hashimoto's, you'll have this for the rest of your life, and it will get worse. And I was like, wow. And if something in me just went, I don't think so. And I remember going home and being like, I got 2 little babies. I'm getting out of this. I'm going to dig my way out of this hole.
Oh yeah.
And it was like, I'd already, my background was always, in a way, energy because of food. So I did, when I was at university, it was always about health, nutrition, and how the body works. So I was always very interested in that. And I just delved straight back into all that knowledge from university. So I was really getting my body stronger again. And then as I was getting my body stronger again, I was like, what is this here? I was like ultra sensitive. And then I started thinking, I'm actually petrified about some rooms in my house. Like I was literally like, I'd run down the corridor, I'd be turning lights on. I'm like,
wow,
what is going on? I'm scared to be in my own house here. And because of my negative thoughts, and because I've been so sleep deprived and in that relationship that was very negative, I'd actually attracted a lot of negative entities into my home. And as I started to get better, I started to be like, what is this in my home? And I remember even it kept linking back to when I was a child. I mean, scared under the cupboards. I was literally doing that as an adult. And I was like, what is going on? I was really scared at the time. And this is when I started to be like, right, there is stuff here that I need to clear. And with my body as well, when I felt into certain emotions, when I was reading certain books on quantum healing, and as I was reading, I was like, oh yeah, this makes sense. Oh yeah, I did this as a kid. Oh yeah. And then certain things would be really long-winded, or you'd have to do a long process to get there. So me with breastfeeding 2 little babies, I was like, is there a quicker way to do this that's just as powerful? And I even found that the whole breastfeeding thing was actually good meditation. Couldn't go anywhere, and it was literally that.
true.
And even them like kind of just being there, just these beautiful calm babies really that were just kind of, you know, just that loving feeling, and that really helped to ground me into like, so I'd be literally breastfeeding, getting like information on how to, oh, I'll do that. So I was literally like, oh, I can do that now, or I'll do that. So all this stuff was coming in while I had the young twins. And then it just started growing more and more really. But the spiritual thing I was very scared of. I think a lot of it linked back to horror movies. I tried to do a lot of healing on myself on movies that I've watched, of being petrified as a child. I even have memories of the houses in the UK always seem to have an upstairs. And there's even memories where I know if I didn't put my foot on the bottom step, I was okay. But as soon as I put the foot on the bottom step to go up the stairs, it was instant. I remember even saying to myself, I'm not going to run this time.
Wow.
And this has happened the whole time I was in there, because my mom was like, you need to stop running up the stairs. And I'm like, no,
I can't.
I'm going to not run up these stairs. So there's a lot of fear that I had to overcome with these spirits, like knowing stuff's there, but not having anyone, like even with my mom, I'm like, I feel like something might chasing me. She goes, don't be daft. Like it was like something you would say in the UK. Don't be daft, don't be silly. There's nothing there. I'm like, there has to be. And it's funny actually, because even when my family came to visit me here in Perth, and I said to them, I was like, did you ever have a creepy feeling around the stairs? And they were like, yeah, I could never stay on the stairs. Like none of us could stand on the stairs. And I'm like,
no way.
And we didn't know that until we were adults, literally chatting about it in my garage at the time. I remember just saying, I'll just bring stuff up. And they were like, yeah, that was, I could never ever stand on them stairs. No one else ran, but I ran. I was literally scared. So there was lots of things like that. And so as I started clearing stuff away out of my body, literally tuning into emotions and being like, oh, that is in me. I can feel that. And it would come out like, I remember at first I would just cry a lot. And it was like, it was just this purge. And I was like, wow, and I could see all those brave faces that I had. And then it was linking back, not just to the experience of being miserable in a relationship, but linking back to being different parts in my, you know, when I was a teenager, and then I had a point when I was at school. So as I was clearing, I was like, oh, these are clumping together. So similar energy is clumping together. So similar experiences, but different ages. And then this started to go even deeper then. So as I was clearing away I didn't even think about past lives at this stage. So as I was starting to clear away all the present life stuff and all this baggage that I didn't even know I was carrying until I knew, I started to feel so much better. And then I started to be like, oh, what is this on me? And what's this? And then I'd be like, I don't even know what this is. And I'd be clearing stuff. I didn't know what it was, but then I'd feel really good after it. At the time, I didn't have any visual sight because I'd been so scared. I blocked off my visual ability. So my ears were blocked, my eyes were blocked, but I could sense, like my senses were almost like always heightened. And then as I started to clear more and more stuff, I get flashes of images and I'm like, oh, that wasn't nice. And then I'd be like, oh, as I went through, I'd be asking, so is this a different life of mine? Yes. And I'm like, okay, is reincarnation real then? Like, you know, when you kind of like, you always kind of have that feeling, I'd love it to be real, but is it really real? And then through doing these, I was like, it is real. It has to be. There's no way I could feel myself healing parts of me, well, versions of me in the past, but having that reaction as if it was me, like as if it was me experiencing that. I'm like, that is me. I experienced that, and I could feel so much emotional purge come out, and it was the same emotional purge as if it happened to me in this lifetime. So I was like, wow, so it's not just a build-up of this lifetime, it's a build-up of multiple lifetimes, and there's layers and layers of, so when you access these past lives, you then access the emotions, the thoughts, the trauma of those lives as well. But as I was clearing through all these heavy ones that were coming up, because literally my higher self was like, if you're going to get to a good place, these heavy ones have to go. I didn't even feel or even think about accessing, you know, the good lives. Part of me was even like, after a while, like, do I even have a good life? Like, you know, it felt like that for a while. But then I noticed, like, as you can tune into the good lives, but they always seem far away until you're at the right point. So this is why people have that past life regression, and someone else can pull up the past life and tell you about it. But that will not fully integrate with you until you are at the level to integrate the knowledge and the wisdom of that life. So as I've been clearing through different lives, and all of a sudden I'll get this most amazing life come through. Actually, even recently, I had this Lemurian lifetime come through, and I was almost still figuring it out, but I could feel it was really embodying through me. And then I had a few of as you know, I know a lot of psychic people, or a lot of people who are spiritual, and they'd be like, I can feel a Lemurian energy around you. Is you a Lemurian princess? And literally the amount of people, because it was present on me, the energy was brought forward. People were just like, oh, I'm feeling like a Lemurian princess. Like they would literally just say it. And I'm like, wow, well, you mention it, this has came up. So when that lifetime came up, I got this beautiful visual. Just everything just was more radiant. It's like the plants were like almost glowing. And I was literally didn't really feel like I did much either. I was kind of like very present. And I feel like people just came to me and just almost just sat around me to feel the calmness, just to be. I feel like I did do healing in that life, but it felt more like just sitting around me was healing enough for a lot of people. It was very strange to feel into, but very beautiful. So these lives it's almost like a little bit of a gift every now and then. So when you clear a lot of baggage, then all of a sudden it's like, ta-da, here's a beautiful life that you had. Yeah. So it just, and then it just gets more and more trippy, I would say, the more you go. Because then you start going galactic, and then you're clearing yourself being injured on different planets. And then you're feeling the knowledge that you had and then your role on that planet. And then sometimes it's a bit like, I did this? What? Like, you know, it's kind of feeling. And then sometimes you can be off planet. And I've even had people in for sessions, and they will actually trigger an off planet past life because I would have been with them in that past life. So it's so interesting. And then you start to see all the people that actually come and see me for healings as well. We've had this arrangement in different lifetimes, or we've been in some kind of journey together. So it does you start to see how you're all interwoven, and how no matter what, if you're supposed to meet someone, you will meet them. So yeah, it's really, I just love it. It's just so interesting.
I love that you use the word trippy, because when you first start getting into this stuff, you're like, whoa, this is actually super trippy. And I also love how you talked about you know, you could manifest and you could generate and come up with things, because I think that was the first sign that I had that there was something more going on, and I was using energy. I was like, okay, cool. Yeah, I can get this. I can get that. And just being so confident in it, like, yeah, I know how to do this. And also asking the questions. I think that's the biggest thing too. You were talking about how it's like, well, is there an easier way to do this? And just having that connection and asking, and that's like a really basic beginner thing I guess people can start doing. But I remember I had this conflict with a friend, and they said the reason that they didn't like me is because I always got what I wanted.
Yeah.
And I was like, that still comes back to me, because I was like, yeah, I do get what I want, because I know how to use this and I know how to work with this type of energy. So, you know, don't talk to them anymore. That's not an issue. But it was my first awareness that there was actually something bigger kind of going on here. So I guess, why is it important for people to be so aware of their energy and their energetics?
I reckon really it's almost like ignorance. We taught ignorance is bliss. Ignorance is not bliss. Ignorance is going to get you in that big hole that I ended up in, you know, or let a lot of people end up these days, where life just starts getting heavier and like you start to not enjoy life anymore. So when you don't know these energies exist, or you don't know that you have control, I think that's a good one as well, that you don't have, people just think that the whims of life happens to them when life is happening for you. So once you know that, right, I can actually generate these emotions. What emotions and thoughts have I been generating and reflecting out to this world? Because that is going to get reflected back to me. So I feel like once you become aware of energies, you understand then that what you give out, you get back to you. So it's then you start to master your thoughts, you start to master your emotions then. And a good thing to let everyone know is that even if you have a negative thought, you can neutralize that, because with thinking something negative, as soon as you think of something positive, it's 10 times more powerful than any negative thought. So to know that, oh, I may have got off track, I may have been thinking not nice this morning, and be literally like, boom, actually, what can I think of that's just going to shift this? And it could be a happy memory. It could even be using the words of like joy and bliss, and just being like, how does that feel? Right. So as a word, it's nothing. But how would my body react if I was to feel that? And it's almost like bringing the sensation into the body, because a lot of the spiritual journey that a lot of people go on, they want to separate from the body. It's always like, let's go up here and let's drift off, which is fun. But
that's me.
But when you bring that spiritual awareness into the physical body, and you start listening to the body, and you start communicating, and the body is, you're almost being in tandem, in team with your body. And that's where the magic really happens. And this is where you're really manifesting stuff as well, because when you're feeling into this is what's going to come in, you're feeling it, like you're feeling it in your flesh. And that's why some people struggle to manifest, because they'll all be in their mind, or they'll all be mind and spirit. But unless you bring that mind and spirit, and it's the trio, isn't it? And mind, body, spirit, when you bring all the three together, boom, you have exactly what you want. This memory just popped into my head. Then I even remember one of my friends who would always be like, you're just so lucky all the time. And I remember I was actually walking my dog, and she had one of the dog throwers. And I literally was like, I had a ball and I was just throwing it. And I was like, oh, I need to get a ball thrower. I don't want you to keep bending down. We sat on a bench, and there was one there. And I was like, who's this? And there was literally no one in the park. And my friend was like, you got it again. And I'm like, yeah. I was like, and it doesn't have a ball, because I got a ball. Tink. And then I was literally just throwing it to my dog.
I'm so glad you said that, because I've had so many things in my life where I'm like, oh, I really need that. And then I feel it, like I'm like, I've got it, and I know that I'm going to have it. And then, you know, it was as crazy as that. I needed that morning a tripod for my friend's baby shower, and I was driving along, and I kid you not, someone had literally ditched a tripod somewhere in the middle of nowhere as I was driving past, like no residential area. And I was just staring at it, and I was like, that's a tripod. That is a tripod. And I just got out of my car, put it in the back of my car, got home, and my friend was like, where did you get that from? I was like, don't worry about it, I got a tripod. It's literally insane. Once you actually understand it, it's like magic.
It is. And it does feel like magic, because stuff just appears, and it's almost like, how could that just be there? And you literally, because you obviously you want to see if it belongs to someone as well, some things, and you kind of like, this has just been left out on the verge, or like, no, this has just been left on a bench. it's almost like the universe has been like, we'll just place that there for her because she's already knows she's got it anyway. So there it is. It's so magic, isn't it?
And do you know what? I would probably have so many more examples if I sat down and actually thought about it, because we are just honestly working, with the universe, with energy all of the time, which is why I love talking about it, obviously. So there are so many women that will just hear this for the first time and they'll probably think that we're nuts, but that's okay. What can we do to help them start or begin, a kind of spiritual journey?
I reckon a lot of people need to connect with their breath first. I mean, breath work, I actually love breath work. So a lot of people won't even realize that they're shallow breathing. So a lot of people now listening, so feel into how you're breathing. Like, are you just barely bringing any air into the body? So a lot of us, even when you're manifesting, you're getting excited, you'll notice that you'll take big breaths in without even thinking about it, because we already know how it works. We've done it a lot in probably different lifetimes as well. So if you've got that shallow breathing, you're lessening the amount of energy in your body, and your frequency will be lower. You'll actually energetically look darker as well. So being able to manifest when you're dark and energy frequency is low, it's basically impossible. So someone can give you a million techniques, but if your frequency of your body is low, you'll be one of those people who like, these techniques don't work for me, because the frequency of your body isn't at the right level to enable those techniques to be able to manifest into your physical reality. So I feel like the breath, and as you breathe as well, connecting into chi. So chi, energy, the ethers, they're all around us. So even when we're taught as children, you're always taught you need to eat, you need to drink. No one ever teaches you need to breathe. But if you don't breathe, you can die within minutes. So this is how important it is to breathe. Like, the real energy source, our real food, is our breath. And we're literally, people are walking around starving, literally starving of oxygen. And this is where sometimes I feel like where maybe even sometimes people might even overeat sometimes, because they feel that drain, they feel that lack, when all they need to do is take a nice big deep breath. So once you start taking these deep breaths as well, you want to be conscious, where am I actually breathing? Am I breathing at the top of my chest? And then you want to breathe down into the belly. So when you think of babies instinctively breathe out through their belly. And you'll always see a baby, they're not breathing through their chest. It's always the belly's rising. So it's almost like, where am I breathing? Am I breathing down through my entire lung and breathing the belly out? So this is a really good tip for people, because once you get that full breath in, it doesn't feel like I'm trying to breathe, because people try and take a deep breath, but they're still breathing in like this bit of the chest, and they're getting nothing in. And then the remaining dark, they might have a little bit of light energy starting to glow in that section, but their body will still be quite dark. But once you take in that full breath, you bring in the movement, you bring in the light into the body, you start to light up. And this is where stuff can start to change as well. So once you've got more oxygen in the blood, your brain's functioning better as well. Your body starts to instinctively relax. It goes out of that panic. A lot of people will be functioning fight or flight without realizing, rushing to jobs, rushing to schools, rushing to places. So it's almost take that pause in the day. If you are rushing around, you are depleting your life force. You are not, your energy is kind of just getting wasted. And this is where people end up getting sick as well. Their life force is just draining out of them. They're not enjoying their life. They're just place, the next place, next place. Their body's literally, and it increases the aging process as well. So if you feel like you don't want to keep aging and aging, pause, breathe. Like, even in the day, even if it's in your car and you're like, right, I'm in my car, even though I'm moving now, nice big breaths, and you can almost get your breath back just from place to place if you do have a busy job. And even visualizing, like, imagination is so overlooked. As children, they're like, it's just your imagination. When you realize imagination is the source of all creation, like, nothing would exist. Like, this Zoom would not exist if someone hadn't imagined the computer. Like, everything you ever look at in your house, your home, wouldn't exist unless someone visualized that first. So it's like the imagination is the building blocks for physical creation, for our physical matter. So once you get a hold of that as well, you kind of be like, right, so if my imagination is the building blocks, what do I want to pull in? And that's kind of where we link back to what we were talking about, where you're thinking of that tripod. You've probably already seen it in your head. It already exists. Seen it, you've kind of felt it, you've even felt yourself using it, and then boom, there it is, because it actually does exist in the reality already. It just had to come in alignment where you would bump into it. And that's the thing. Once you can visualize it, you start bumping into good things. You know, where people will say, oh, I had a bad day and bad things come in freeze or everything. And that's kind of like the opposite of what we attract.
Oh, I was going to say, yeah, people do get stuck in that side. Like, what can happen next? I'm like, whoa, let's just get some positivity back in here. I actually wanted to bring this up because we were first chatting about obviously some negative things and some bad spirits, and it just brought something up for me when I was first doing a clearing on someone during your training, and there was an entity. I don't know if you remember, and I was like, oh my goodness, like, and I was scared. I remember being scared, and it was getting bigger and it was getting blacker, and then you were like, how did everyone find that? And me and the gentleman, I guess you call him, were just completely quiet. And I was like, yeah, there was definitely something negative happening. And it was probably one of the best experiences I've had, because you were like, okay, you need to bring more love and light into it. So I think that's a really important thing for us to talk about, because when you're scared or when you bring in negative things, that's kind of how it stays. Yeah, and it grows. So can you chat a bit about bringing in the good and bringing in the light and the love?
Yeah, definitely. So it literally, we can lead off that, because I feel like in that story there was like these entities, they feed off fear. So fear is almost like, it becomes the kryptonite then. So we're these superhuman beings, like we are so powerful, each and every one of us. But you give fear, you allow yourself to feel fear, and you become weak. And that's where literally you would see Superman with the kryptonite, and he just got no power anymore. One minute he can fly and do lasers, and next minute he can't do nothing. So that's what fear is. So it's almost like once you get that awareness, like, so if I'm in fear, I've got no power whatsoever. And that's the only weakness you'll ever have, is fear. So it's like almost detaching yourself from the fear and knowing that everything that's dark is actually disconnected from source, or it's a distortion of the pure source frequency. So even people as well. So people and things like as well as entities, once you get people who are kind of, we would call not good people, who do bad things, when you look through their lives, they've probably had maybe an abusive childhood. They would have a lot of negative things happen to them, and they'd be treated that way. This almost becomes their normal, and they find it really hard to get out of it. But yeah, so leading on. So what was the question again? I literally went down a bit of a hole.
No, you're absolutely fine. How to get more love and light, like rather than the negativity in the dark.
So to switch it around. So this is where it's like, right, I can feel something that's fearful. So if we use that entity as an example. So as soon as everyone in the room started to feel scared, this entity, boom. And I'm just like, yeah, okay, everyone's feeding this. So it's almost like as soon as you drop in a fear, boom. But I know how it works. So even when an entity comes in the room, and literally I have students that are like, oh my God, that's what's going on. I'm like,
that was me.
Yeah. I'm literally like, just feel into the emotions of love. And everyone in the room who then started to be like, okay, I've got a physical body. I'm a spirit in a physical body. This thing doesn't have a body. It has no power over you whatsoever. And then people started to breathe. So we get everyone breathing again. Breathe, bring the light back into the body. Now feel into the emotions. And then literally, as you feel into the emotions of bliss, if you feel into memories of literally even being at the beach with the sun shining on you, how peaceful that is, fear just starts to melt away. And then the entity literally ended up being this weak little blob then in the room that we just removed.
Yeah.
And there's the thing as well, everyone can remove these things. So my children, which are now 7, they've been removing spirits and even past lives since you're about 4 years old. So it's kind of like to know that even the way I've kind of developed the stuff that I do teach as well, it's so anyone can do it. Like, you know, I mean, 4-year-olds can do it. And the reason I end up, because most people might be wondering, like, how would you teach a 4-year-old how to do that? So my children are actually quite psychic. And they would literally be like, Mom, there's a black ghost in the corner of the room. And I'd be like, oh yeah, there is. Which is good because I didn't have that as a kid. I literally like don't so it's like, oh yeah, there is. And I would be removing them. And then I was like, do you know what? You can do this. And he was like, oh, can you show me how to do it, Mom? I'm like, yes, I will show you how to do it. And he's like, I was like, so we did it together. And then he's like, oh, that was easy. There's another one over there, Mom. Oh, yeah, I'll teach you that one as well. And it was so funny the way he was doing it, like a little 4-year-old. My little girl can do it as well, but I found my boy was more bothered by them. When I felt like my little girl was more like, meh, it's there, but I don't care. Where my little boy was like, there's a thing there. And like, because you could feel, because they feel sad, they feel angry sometimes. Horrible. There's an angry ghost, Mom, and I'd be like, I feel it. I'm like, oh, and it just have that feeling of like, like you know when the stories come in where and people have those drawings. It's because of the energy of that thing. So you create the opposite of that energy, and that's how we end up removing a lot of this stuff. So tapping into your imagination, your breath, and then with the emotions. Boom, and you literally can change your frequency then to then pull in what you want to attract. And then you attract less of these entities. So these entities will come, they'll magnetize to you. So if you're worried about entities and you're worried about spirits, which you don't really need to be, but people will feel like there's stuff in the room, but you will attract them by your emotions. So if you're thinking a lot of negative stuff, you're going to have a negative maybe spirit or entity that's just going to be like, oh, she's vibrating the same as me. I'm going to hang around with her today, or I'm going to hang around with her in her house. Like, and then it's almost been like, well, who are you hanging around with? Because it's not just the physical people. So if you've got a spirit that's in your home that is really sad, you might find yourself just getting waves of sadness for no reason whatsoever. Or you might just find yourself snapping in anger for no reason. And you'd be like, why I'm fine, and all of a sudden I feel like I want to kill someone. You know, it's like, and that energy will come through. And then it's that realization, it's not actually me. I'm actually very empathic, and I'm picking up the energy of this spirit that's not a very nice spirit, or it's died in a certain way. And a lot of these, actually, a lot of it sometimes can be for a religion where they're scared to go to the light because they've actually not done good things in their life. Sorry.
It's okay. It's just adding to the atmosphere of what we're talking about.
It's actually it's a fire engine.
We've literally lit something on fire with our energy, guys. Watch out.
So it's almost like taking back the power. Like, no one's gonna fix you as well. So even though like I do get people coming in to have healings from me, I'm here to empower people. So I can help you get out of that cycle. But everything I teach, everything I even do in my one-on-one sessions is to bring you back into your own power. So each of us, this is how when people talk about we're going to move into the higher dimensions or the 50, I mean, it's basically a frequency. So to move up to that frequency, us all as individuals have to step into our power. If we're always giving our power away and being like, someone else is going to fix me, someone else is going to do this for me, someone else is going to bring in the 5D. You know what I mean? It's almost like, no, if we're all cells in the consciousness of this planet, basically, of source, we each have to communicate with each other. That's like we have to communicate with each other and energetically all live together. It's that saying really where we can't really allow anyone to be left. Everyone who's left behind will end up being almost like a pull down in the matrix. And that pull down then allows other people will be pulled down with those people. So that's why even when I do the healings as well, we bring love into everything, to be honest. Love is the foundation of everything. It's actually it's the purest frequency, unconditional love. So it's not even because love can get mixed up with conditional love, where do this and I'll love you. And that's, again, a distortion of love. But unconditional love, where you would do something for someone or someone would do something for you, and you have no expectation. It's literally just because. It's because love exists, and it feels so nice just to be in love and to be in unconditional love. And that's the frequency that kind of heals everything. Yeah, it's kind of the fabric of what we're truly made of, is unconditional love.
Oh, I could just chat about this shit, honestly, all day. And just since I learned it, and I know that there'll be people listening that are real beginners, but there'll be people listening that go, wow, I've kind of known this my whole life. I just haven't been able to express it, or I haven't had someone who has the knowledge and the background to be able to relay exactly what I've been doing, or I've been, working on myself. So tell us, where can people stalk you? Where can people find you? Where can they find out more?
So I'm not massively on social media, but I do have a Facebook page, Multidimensional Quantum Healing. You type that in, you should just be able to find me. I do have an Instagram that I always forget to post on as well, but I do post, so you can find me through there. If you want to go to me directly to book a session or to book on one of my workshops, then my website is multidimensionalquantumhealing.com. It sounds long. I think I may eventually MQH to shorten it down.
Oh, I like that. But
yeah.
Also, I like the long one, because every single time I type it in, I'm like, yep, there's that really long website. I know I've got the right one.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, and it's like I'm so used to typing it myself now. It's almost like it's almost like I have to not think to type it.
Yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, there it is. But yeah, and as well, because the reason the name is so long as well, because it kind of is that I go into all areas. So it's multidimensional. Like, so there's different dimensions of our frequency, and there's different dimensions of our reality, and we are multidimensional beings. And then the quantum thinking into energy, how we can manipulate and change the quantum field of the current reality and past realities and future realities, done future lives as well. So yeah, and then the healing is really more of the body has a divine healing intelligence. So even though we call it healing, really what we're doing is we're transmuting the interference. The body is already perfect, in perfect alignment. And it's almost like these past lives, these emotions, these thoughts, they're like splinters in you. So it's like something in you won't heal, you won't fully reach your potential while you've got a big splinter in you. So that's kind of where the healing comes in, because we remove what's causing the blockage, and then the body will naturally heal back to its original blueprint. And it's really interesting.
Oh, well, for anybody who doesn't know how to spell or can't remember that, I will put all of the links in the show notes. But yeah, Kerrie, I just think that you're so amazing. So thank you so much for coming and chatting with us.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. I really enjoyed it. So.